Club NGMI.
Welcome. Glad you made it. I'm Lou Dog Sports on Twitter. And this is a special Club MGMI tonight. We have an interview with one of the founders of Tenacious Tigers, a new NFT dropping soon. And let me bring him on. It's this one. Mr. Maz 555. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so you hit me up. We are in a couple Discords together and have a little background in DFS. For those that don't know, DFS is daily fantasy sports, and for things like DraftKings, play NFL on Sundays. I play soccer as well. We've done some esports, and I think some of the guys on your team you found through esports department.
Exactly.
And their DFS stuff. So, tell us a little about yourself and how you kind of got into NFTs.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I first got my start in DFS. It was probably football season of 2013. And when I first started going at it, kind of like everyone else, I was probably playing like the $25 tournament at that time. And probably bricking it most of the time as well, kind of just clicking my favorite players. And it was probably like a year or two before I kind of really got up the learning curve and kind of started taking it more seriously. And it's kind of been smooth sailing since. I played high stakes cash on both sites. I haven't gone down the GPP rabbit hole like everyone else. I maybe one day, but I don't know how to use the optimizers as well as everyone else.
There's a lot more involved when you have to click. You have to click a lot more buttons. You have to make sure that you have your correlations correct and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the GPP guys, they get like kind of made fun of on Twitter, like, oh, if you had the bankroll to do 150 lineups, you're a lock to win. Certainly not the case. I've tried it before. I've bricked over 150 multiple times. I give those guys a lot of credit. It's just not what my sweet spot is, and I kind of have to focus on the things that I know I can excel in. So that's kind of where I got my start in I guess the DFS kind of gambling arena. And as you kind of know, the crypto DFS NFT communities, there's a lot of synergies between them. So I've been in crypto for a little while now, probably like 3 or so years. And I picked up NFTs earlier this year. My first experience was actually minting a Meebit. So I guess that was probably in April or May at this point.
You didn't have the Punk first?
I did not have the Punk first.
Okay.
That came after the fact. But I was in Ether for a long time. And like, I kind of bit the bullet. Like I always kind of saw people speaking about NFTs on Twitter, and like, I just said like, screw it. Like, let's just go for it. I minted a Meebit, which was probably like the most exhilarating experience I've ever had. Before I kind of went down the rabbit hole. But it was kind of a mixture of all the things that I really enjoy. It was kind of just ever since then, it was kind of just, I went full force at it. I started with punks, high-end art block stuff. And if you spend the time, you can kind of get up to speed on a lot of these things quickly. And you can kind of see those mispricings and kind of act on it.
Did you get into Top Shot at all, or was this you got into Top Shot after, or anything like that? Because most people in DFS got into Top Shot first.
Exactly, yeah. So I did do some Top Shots, not seriously. What kind of really turned me off to the Top Shot was anytime I would go after one of those high-end packs. Like I would literally clear my schedule. I would change my plans to kind of make sure I got on the waiting list. And like every time I was just disappointed. I don't think I ever got one of those expensive packs. And at the time, if you got one of those packs, it was kind of like a license to print money. Like it was the expected value on a lot of those things were,
Yeah.
I think you like were locked to like 2 or 3x your money in most cases.
Yeah, because I
But
know
I
that
was
the
never
first
lucky
like
enough to get
holo
it.
drop, the hollow, I don't know if it's
The
hollow
hollow,
drop.
yeah,
Yeah, the first one, they were like, oh, you just have to be in the queue during this window. So I like went and walked my dog, and when I came back, everyone's like, all the packs are gone. It's like, how does that happen? And so that was my first. I cleared, like you said, like I made sure I had whatever it was. I think it was $1,000 in the balance. I made
Mhm.
sure I had the amount in there, and didn't matter. It all failed. So I've gotten a couple of rare packs over time, but yeah, most of the time there's so many other people going in multi accounts that I agree it turned a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So then how did you get into punks? Did you just see, oh, this is the first and this just seems right?
So I think my first intro to punks, I followed DC Investor on Twitter. He's a pretty famous. He was a crypto account, and now he's really he kind of focuses on the high end of the NFTs. And he was kind of basically just screaming from the mountaintops about these things for forever. And for a while, I was bidding on stuff, but I was kind of like coming in a little bit low. Like I could have been a lot earlier to the game. And then there was this one run up in them where I was just like, I kind of just have to bite the bullet and just go for it. But I think I was kind of lucky because I was pretty in tune with what like crypto Twitter and some of these other guys who are involved in NFTs who are also involved in crypto Twitter. There's a select few accounts that I've kind of been following pretty closely for a while now, and they're some of the smartest minds in the industry. So I think that they're pretty good to. I know in one of the discords we're in, we kind of track the wallets of what these guys are doing. I think in the current stage of the market, that's a pretty good strategy if you're tailing some of the whale money into a lot of these projects, and a lot of the times they're ahead of the curve on these things.
Yeah, and we just introduced into the Club MGMI Discord some Nansen alerts. So
Mm-hmm.
similar idea, but the problem with that is a lot of it can be noise because there's certain of these high investors that just kind of buy everything, and
Yeah.
so you still have to like filter out. Oh, like Andy 8052. It's like, oh, did he buy that like as a joke, or does he actually think like something like the Toads, right? Does he actually like the Toads, or is that a joke? And so that's where you kind of have to take a step back sometimes. But then, so is that where you found the other sort of co-founders with Tenacious Tigers?
So the other co-founders in Tigers are actually my brother, who's also pretty into it. He was actually like my NFT trader for a while. Because if I was busy or doing something else, he would be the one at his computer, kind of executing the trades. But really, I think over the last 2 to 5 months, I've kind of been pretty ingrained in the community in a bunch of discords. And it's funny, like you spend a lot of time speaking with people and kind of picking their brain and kind of group thinking on different trades, that you kind of really start to realize that a lot of these guys are pretty smart. And the one common theme is they're all super ingrained in the NFT market, which I think is important. And that's kind of why I built the team around me to kind of to support me with that. I'm incredibly proud of the team we brought on. Like if you go to the team page of our website and you kind of scroll through, every one of them is a different high end NFT. Everyone's super involved in those respective communities. They're super focused on the markets. They're tracking everything, and I think you kind of have to be. And I think that's what kind of makes our team so unique. You really have to be in tune with what's going on in the market and kind of what's working and what's not working, and kind of be able to identify that.
Yeah, and you can even see just from the avatars here that these are pretty solid projects for them to be a part of. Everyone just within the team. Like I recognize Quad. Ghost from esports, and you got the meta hero in here. Obviously, your punk. You got all the Bored Ape stuff. So it's definitely, like you said, you want to tail sharp people, and when you see people that are in projects that have been successful, especially some of these that are more recently successful, where it's a little harder, I think now to sort of find better projects, because there's so much saturation in the market, that it's nice to see that this is a team that has like all of the recently successful projects is what they're using,
Yeah, and I think you brought up a pretty good point about the space becoming saturated. I think a lot of the stuff out there, it's kind of all it's very similar, especially in the sense that there's not too much innovation going on. And I think what's really important when you're kind of evaluating projects from the bottom up, and when they start, is what's the team. And I think I've built a really great team. Not everyone's listed on there. I know you know Tyler. He's in a bunch of Discords. He's going to be helping out with the DAO. But like, I think in a lot of these projects, you're going to have to start investing in the team and their ability to kind of execute the plan that they have in place. And I think that's really important. And I'm super confident that our team is going to be able to execute everything that we put our minds to.
Yeah. So I guess what's different with the Tigers? What type of things that you guys bring to the table that you think is going to separate yourselves from the rest?
So I think that the first thing is going to be the DAO component. DAO, it's kind of like a mysterious word. People don't really know what it is. There's a few of them that are pretty powerful at this point and have a lot of buying power. But essentially what it is it's a pool of assets, or it could be Ethereum, it could be NFTs that are kind of controlled by the community. And the reality is, at this point, a lot of the NFTs that I think are in the higher echelon, whether it's the punks or the apes, cool cats, they're wildly expensive. Like, not everyone is going to be able to do that. And I think what's unique about what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving people the ability to kind of have exposure to that, whether it's through our DAO, because that's what our goal is. We're going to be trading in and out of the floors of high-end NFTs. There's also going to be Ethereum pumped into it as well, because the DAO is going to be funded with 10% of our initial sale, and then 2.5% of the secondary sale. So we're starting with a pretty big slug of ether if everything goes well. And it's a way to give people access to exposure in these without having to buy the full thing, and most people aren't able to do that. So we think it's a pretty unique value proposition.
Yeah, is it going to be set up within something like Fractional, where there's a vault created, or is basically Tyler just going to manage a wallet that holds each of these items?
So there's going to be a vault created. We're still not entirely. We're working on the exact mechanism, but essentially the way it's going to work is there's going to be a special NFT that we're going to create, and the way you're going to be able to access that is having a certain number of Tenacious Tigers, and that NFT is going to be not only your ownership stake in the DAO, but it's also going to be your voting token. So the initial council in the DAO is going to be our team, and there's going to be other honorary members that we bring on to kind of propose investments. I think a lot of the guys on the team that I assembled are pretty skilled, and they kind of know what's a blue chip NFT. And you would bring a proposal to the DAO, and everyone who has one of those special tokens will be able to vote on what the DAO decides to buy, and what the DAO decides to sell. So I think it's a pretty interesting opportunity to be a part of from the ground up, because a lot of the DAOs right now, they're huge pools of assets, and you can't get into them anymore.
Yeah, and will you be able to say you don't have one of the NFTs, but you want to be a part of the DAO after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the the floor on the Tigers ends up being like 5 ETH and you'd rather just buy like 1 ETH worth of the DAO, would you be able to do that, or do you have to say burn one of the Tigers in order to be getting that token?
We're still working through that, but in an ideal world, that token is going to be traded on the secondary market as well. So you after the initial launch and the initial kind of giving out of those tokens, you won't theoretically have to be holding a Tiger anymore. Because I think there's going to be a limit on the amount of tokens that we give out as an ownership stake in the DAO, and it will be pretty easy to kind of back into a value of that because we're going to be trading on the floors of most of these NFTs, which is pretty liquid, and then there's going to be an Ether balance, so you'll be able to kind of come into a value of the DAO token.
Okay, and then tell me about these cubs. So this is going to be sort of an airdrop. Is it going to be a 1-for-1 or multiple?
So it's going to be a 1-for-1. I think if you go on our website, you could see that the artist that I brought on is incredibly talented, and that kind of just we're kind of just scratching the surface of what's going to be on our Tigers. But he's going to be designing those as well, and we're super excited about that. And those will have their own utility, and that will be announced at a later date.
Okay, yeah, because that's one thing that, obviously Bored Apes had one of the most successful of those sort of companion drops, and like you said before, Meebits was one of your first introductions to NFTs, and it's definitely important to bring a secondary utility to them, because a lot of the times, say you get airdropped some random item from, like, there was one project that was called, I think it's Slacker Duck Pond, and you got like ducklings, but then everyone's like, I mean, why do I need this duckling? Like, and then all of a sudden the floor drops. And so if you can keep providing that utility with the companions, then people who say maybe missed out on the original Tigers, it's kind of like what happens with the mutant apes, where people wanted some exposure to be a part of that community, and it gives you another reason to be a part of it. But if they are continuing to give you a reason to stick around and hold that item, then obviously, like, it's more successful for the companions.
Totally, and I think you brought up a great point, because I think what makes the apes and all the other high-end PFPs what they are, it's the community, and you kind of want to keep people engaged. You want them to follow what you're doing. You want them to be active participants, and at the end of the day, a 10,000 supply is really not that much, especially when you're basically participating in a global market. That could really dry up quickly, and especially if they get to prices where the apes and the punks are, most people aren't going to be able to participate in that anyway. So bringing in a secondary project under that same umbrella, I think is a great option, especially if you get your community to the place that those other ones are.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of when I sold my Bored Ape months ago. And then once it ran all the way up and it basically priced myself out of them, then when I saw the mutants come out, I was like, this is a way to get back in. And like you said, there's more supply, but at the end of the day, like, you're also growing the community, because you have, I don't know the exact numbers, but there was 10,000 that was pretty much open to the public outside of the 10,000 that was open to the original owners. So at most, you could have added 10,000 more people to the community. And so that's where I really like the companions. But like I said, like, a lot of the companion drops are done as like a cash grab at the same time. So, I like that you're saying you're focusing on creating the utility for the companion, because that's going to hold that stronger, and people are going to want to have both. Like the Gutter Cat gang, I feel like has done a good job of that, where they just dropped another 2 sets of species. But the goal in mind was we only had 3,000 at the beginning. And so now we're expanding it. So it's not just these 3,000 that could ever exist. Now you could have, 4 gutters. You can be part of, you can have them all match and like things like that. So I think it's really cool how some of these projects are changing as they go along, on their journey, so to speak. So, what do we have dates set for public sale? I know the pre-sale, is that still have spots open? I know Chung was asking in chat if there's a white list. I believe if you're one of the first, you said 250 or so.
Yeah.
In
So
the
what we're doing right now is if you come into our Discord and you message our community manager, we'll set you up as an early supporter, and that essentially is your access to the whitelist. We haven't announced an exact date yet, but our goal is to be doing it the 3rd or 4th weekend in October. I think
soon.
It's coming up. It might sound like a long time in NFT world, but it'll be here soon. And I think what we're really going to be focusing on the next few weeks is kind of building everything out. And I want to be able to go out and kind of show what we're doing and what we're about, because I think we're bringing a pretty unique product to the market. We have a great team, fantastic artwork. And we plan on bringing a lot of utility and value to our token holders.
Yeah. And do you have an idea of the price yet, or is that not decided?
The price is going to be 0.08 ETH. That and plus gas. But if you get onto the pre-sale, you will have a certain amount of time to kind of do that, and the gas will probably be cheaper. But a lot of the time when you go to the public sales of a anticipated drop, the gas could get out of control, and that's something you could be paying double, which is I don't want people doing that.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in the project, it's important to get on the pre-sale.
Yeah. And is it, you're expecting them to be the same day or split apart?
In an ideal world, I would like them to be split apart, probably like 24 to 48 hours. I've kind of seen projects in the past go directly from a pre-sale to a public sale, and sometimes there's tech issues with that. I want to make sure it's a smooth experience for everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because a lot of times I've noticed, and I mean, I'm not sure who necessarily your dev is, but I've noticed on some of these projects where they try to do pre-sale like 30 minutes before or an hour before. A lot of times they end up not anticipating how much traffic there's going to be, and then all of a sudden they push it back, and then they have to delay both, and it just gets messy when you put them too close together. So how many people do you think will be on the pre-sale? Will it be like 25% of the supply, half the supply?
It's going to be about 20% of the supply. I want to really give our early supporters the opportunity to kind of get into it without having to pay those crazy gas prices. From participating in past drops, and I've done the art blocks mints. I've kind of done everything at this point. There's nothing worse from a user's perspective than going to your MetaMask and seeing the gas prices double the mint price. It's something that kind of just grinds my gears, and I definitely don't want people who are going to be participating in the Tenacious Tigers to have to deal with that. So our goal is kind of going to be to make the user experience as best as possible.
Yeah. I'm just going to pull up your Twitter here while I have it. And so you have some of the artwork here similar to what was showing on the last screen, but that's a different one. Oh, are you guys what's this? You guys are giving away in Omnimorph? Did you hook up
So
with them?
we're giving away an Omnimorph that's going to be ending here in a couple minutes, and then we're going to be announcing our next giveaway, which I guess I can give a preview on the live stream if people are watching. We're going to be giving away a Series 1 Giannis Antetokounmpo moment. So I know people love their top shots, so we're super excited to get people involved with that one.
Yeah, S1 Giannis is pretty good too. That's probably a few $100.
Yeah, I think the floor on that one is about 530.
Nice.
So I think people will get excited about it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much the Omnimorphs were, but I know that people were pretty hyped about those as well. But yeah, I saw some of this art. It's pretty cool. The first thing I thought of was a lot of these tigers. They just kind of look jacked. It's like you don't want to mess with these tigers. They're also fierce. Do you already know like all of the traits that you're gonna have? Is that all lined up and things like that? I guess because I haven't been on the sort of dev side of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much between now and say a couple weeks from now, like how much of this is already determined versus how much is like still in process, like which traits we're going to use and or how much of it is just like back end writing code.
We have a pretty good idea of what the trait map is going to look like. I would say we're probably 60 to 70% of the way there, and we're kind of going in and thinking as a team on what else we could be doing to kind of separate ourselves. But that process, it takes a lot of time. Our artist is super talented, but at the end of the day, like you have to draw out all of these things before it's generated. So there's a lot of work that people don't necessarily appreciate that kind of goes into creating a trait map. And then there's the actual tiger. We probably went through 5 or 6 different iterations of the tiger. So there was a tremendous amount of work that went into coming up with this design.
Yeah, and you have to figure out things like layering. That's one thing. Carlini is someone who's in our Discord a bunch. He did the Penelopes. And one thing he's brought up a lot is that's very difficult is figuring out the layering. So one thing in his project was it was like they have a mustache. That's one of the traits, but it's like part of the same traits as glasses. So it's like because if you have them one on top of the other, like it didn't look right. So you can kind of only have one or the other. Because I noticed on here, like there's some of them that have sunglasses. The other one has like that scar. Like that's probably both the same like eye trait. But I mean, a lot of these projects come out, and when you see the actual final product, it's like, ooh, that doesn't actually look good when those two are together. So do you like run fake 10,000 tests and then go through them all and just basically eyeball it and say, oh, okay, these generally look fine, or ooh, that doesn't look good together, or anything like that?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we have plans to do. On our current trait map, there's 810,000 unique combinations. So that's quite a bit when you kind of get it down to 10,000. But we're super excited for it. And you kind of brought up a great point about the layering. I think it's pretty easy to spot projects where the art was really low effort, and you can pick up on those things. A lot of the NFT consumers at this point who've been involved in the space for a couple months, they could spot these things immediately. And I think our art is super detailed, and the traits are great as well.
Yeah, and a lot of these projects that come out, especially the more like low effort that you're talking about, you'll go through after the reveal and you'll just look at a row within the floor and they all look like basically the same, except maybe their background is different or something, And I think when you have more traits, it allows you to get more unique, where someone can buy one because they like it, how it looks. Like this one, like of these that are flashing right now, I really like the one that's like red, that one, the one that's red, and he has like the SWAT vest on and the glasses, and he's got the mohawk, and it's like you're able to like attach to them. But when you have too many traits, it just gets very busy, and there's just so much going on. There was one, I don't know if you did the Dirty Bird drop from a few days ago.
I did not.
But that one, they have so many different traits that there's all these different combinations. But the problem is it's hard to like find your combination because there's too many possible and yours probably doesn't even exist. So that's what I like about when I was looking through these is it seems like it's simple enough as far as like number of traits that I don't think none of them are going to be overly busy in that sense. And it allows you to really focus on the art a little more too, you know? So that's what I like about it. And then like why tigers? Like, have you always been interested in tigers or you just haven't seen any tiger NFTs out there?
I think the tiger it's something I've always kind of been interested in, but I think when I was kind of thinking about this with my team, I haven't seen a well executed tiger project, and we have grander plans that I'm not going to get into now, but bringing all those animals together under one umbrella is something we'd like to do, and we thought the tigers would be a great start.
Yeah. Now, are you doing anything like connected to tigers? I see that this says the year is 2025. Like, why did you choose 2025? It's not like that far in the future, but is that your sort of in 4 years from now, everyone will be just so online that like metaverse and that idea?
I think you bring a great point up. I think by the time 2025 rolls around, there will be a pretty well established metaverse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already being built kind of as we speak, and the integration of Twitter verifying your NFT project as your profile picture that only helps the cause. But I think at that point there'll be a pretty well built out metaverse where you can kind of have your own land. You could already do that, but the infrastructure is gonna be a lot better, and we would definitely like to be a part of that. So that's kind of where our head is at when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think, originally when you showed me this project, you were pretty excited about it, obviously, as all founders will be. But it is one of those that I looked at and it didn't feel like it was low effort to me. There's a lot of these that people throw out in different discords, and I'm just kind of like, man, it's not something that catches my eye. I don't think it'll catch other people's eyes. But yeah, this one, it seems like it's the type of thing that will catch your eye, and someone would maybe want to have it as their profile picture. I think a lot of these PFP projects that are out there that don't last very long, it's because people don't really want to sport it as their own. So I mean, also with like the thumbnail of this show, like it just like comes out better and it
Which
looks
was
cooler.
awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Job well done on that.
And all I did was put 3 in front of this background. It was
I was
like
showing
simple
that to all
enough.
my friends. It looks amazing. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thumbnails I've been getting a little more into. Pete has showed me some stuff with that. And I don't know, it's kind of fun. It allows me to show like my artistic side in a way. I don't know. I've always thought the idea of what if I like created my own project like one of these. I just don't think the time involved versus like how good of an artist I am, I don't think I'd be able to without like spending a lot of time really working on the art. But yeah, it would be fun. Who's the artist on this? Is it someone um that we could give a shout out to, or is he in the team list down here?
He is not on the team list. His name's Andre. He's incredibly talented. Um, he's kind of like our well kept secret at this point. So I don't want to give too much information.
Yeah.
But we're super excited, and I think you brought up a good point on how people they're evaluating projects now and kind of seeing them from aesthetically. And I really wanted to harp on when you're going through and you're looking at what NFT to buy. I think the team that's building it is incredibly important, because essentially at the end of the day, the art could be amazing, but if your team is not going to execute on their plans, the project's going to end up being worthless. So you really need to evaluate who's building these projects and what's the likelihood on them actually executing their plan. And as I said earlier, I'm prepared to throw whatever resources I have at this to make it work. And I've surrounded myself with a bunch of other super smart and knowledgeable people. So we're really excited for the future.
Yeah, and Puck's asking here. He wants to know if you can leak any alpha. I don't know if it's something like, oh, you want to have this trait, or I mean, I know you already said about the Cubs. Do you think this is going to be a type of thing that maybe like hold on to at least 3 of them and things like that, or any sort of alpha that you're willing to give?
I would say the only alpha that I will give is that to be a member of the DAO, you're going to have more than one. How many? It's not going to be determined yet, but I think this project that we're building this with a long-term lens. We're not trying to raise a bunch of money and kind of just stop 2 weeks later. Like I'm thinking years down the line. This is something that I want to build to last. And our number one goal is to bring value to the people who are going to participate in our sale. So I think the next few years are bright for the Tigers.
Yeah. And then as far as like, have you gotten into any of these staking NFTs that have been going around? There's a lot with like the toads. They have there's the zombie toads and the snack toads that are different, but I know that staking has kind of become more of like a hot topic recently. Is that something you guys have looked at, or basically now you're just focusing on the DAO at least to start?
It's something that we've definitely looked at. I think if we did it a few months ago, it would have been more innovative. But I think everyone's kind of jumping on the bandwagon now, and they're creating these essentially these governance tokens that are slapped with pretty ridiculous valuations. That there's nothing that really supports that. But everything's all fun and games when it's just going straight up.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, a lot of those tokens probably aren't going to be worth anything. I hate to poo-poo on everyone's parade with some of them, but like there's not really a purpose to have a lot of them. So it's definitely will something that we'll consider if it will provide direct utility or value to Tiger holders, but it's not something that we have in the works now.
Yeah. It's also the type of thing where now that everyone wants to do it because they see a few successful ones, it's going to get saturated as well. And only a couple will probably stand out at the end of the day. So you don't really want to jump into everything. It's kind of like regular NFTs right now. You don't want to jump into everything. You want to, as we say, like do your 50 hours of research and make sure you're getting into something that, like you said, you're willing to hold for a few years. Like you don't want to just hop into something because you see other people doing it. You want to have, a reason behind it,
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting to see is not staking projects directly on their interface. I'm more curious to see how high-end PFPs become correlated in the DeFi world, whether it's lending them out for a yield or borrowing a project and paying that owner a percentage. That's kind of what fascinates me a little bit more. So it's going to be pretty cool to see that infrastructure be built out.
Great. Well, do you have anything else that you wanted to get off your chest while we had you on to people?
I think I covered the Tigers pretty in depth. I'm always happy to have people message me on Twitter or Discord to ask more, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and it's Mr. Moz 555 on everything?
On everything. That's how you reach me. It's the punk with the crazy red hair. It's easy to spot.
Yeah, the red-haired punks have been hot recently too.
Yeah, it's definitely aesthetically. I think it's one of the cooler ones. There's a bunch like the 3D and the VR glasses that I like also, but the red hair really pops. And
Yeah.
the plan is to have an honorary trait for that in the Tigers as well. So
Oh, that'd be cool.
people should look out for that.
Nice. See, there's your alpha bomb, Beachhead. Beachhead wanted an alpha bomb. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for hopping on, and look forward to seeing in the next couple of weeks whenever the drop ends up being. Um, hope that obviously that it's pretty successful. I plan on hopping in. I believe I'm already in the pre-sale list, so I plan on hopping in for the pre-sale and basically seeing where this journey takes you.
I appreciate that, and again, I'm very grateful for you having me on. It was great to chat with you about DFS and NFTs. It's two things that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching as well, and we'll see you Monday. We have a Monday night stream at 9:30 p.m. for Club MGMI. You can like and subscribe, do all that sort of stuff at the bottom here, and we'll see you guys next time.